So let's talk about desktop stuff. So like I said, if you want to be doing visual interactive stuff for installation, there's a different way to approach this. And the technologies I point to here are processing. I want to do a shout out to Flash because that was the old way of doing things, and open frameworks. There's also things that if you really fit the mold, like you should remember that platforms like Unity 3D, like for doing game development, or a lot of these rendering libraries, can be repurposed for doing interactive 3D visualizations, right? So don't forget that those levers exist. That said, I see less examples nowadays that are using them unless it's like really you need like 3D balls going into a jar with physics, and then you want like the jar to crack and they come down based on what someone's doing, you know? I see less examples of that. I see a lot more of that stuff being done in open frameworks. So how do you make decisions here? Processing, like I said, is built around learning and sketching. It's the place that I would start in terms of a thing to have in your toolbox to be able to quickly create visual depictions of problems that are happening in your software or your hardware or your log records or whatever. Flash was the old way of doing stuff, and it's still being used for like museum installations and stuff, which is crazy. But you wrote for it in ActionScript, which is a lot like JavaScript. And it worked sort of in an object hierarchy. So it felt a little bit like the DOM, where you were manipulating objects, you can move them around the screen. Even Adobe finally is killing it. Like now they're transitioning to HTML5 as sort of the rendering environment, or sort of language that they're using, and they render to video, to Flash embeddable widgets, and to whatever. Open frameworks, C++, you got to invest in it, but it gets wicked fast. Great for 3D stuff if you want to be doing video analysis. If you want to make like interactive pieces where someone's dancing and you're capturing that and painting visuals behind them. Open frameworks is kind of where the standard now is for doing stuff like that. You can do that in processing, of course. But I see a lot more examples of that stuff in open frameworks. I mean, the answer is yes, right? Because every technology dies a slow death. Sometimes quick, but sometimes slow. But like, if you were a Flash developer, right, you've probably been developing Flash. You could have been developing Flash for like 15, 20 years, honestly. Well, 15 years at this point. And you should have known about 5 to 6 years ago that Flash was dying, right? And the skills you developed in terms of knowing how to build stuff is all transferable. The language-specific skills related to ActionScript and the objects, those are not, right? But in general, this stuff, like the things I'm showing you, last a long time, right? So like D3 isn't going anywhere, right? That's just not. It's too embedded in too many ways. Will something else happen and take over? Yes. And you will need to relearn that. But it's going to be a while because there's so much invested in it. Same thing for processing. You know, processing has active development. They have a foundation around it. It is the de facto standard. It's going to be around for a while, and they're still doing active development. Will it go away? I don't know. If they're nimble enough to keep on changing it, then no, it might not. You know, open frameworks has been around for a long time. It's still like they don't have a 1.0 release. You know, so it's still like hokey, but in terms of like, it's C++, and it can be more brittle than some of the other technologies if you don't know C++. It's going to be around for a while. Well, I mean, it's worth realizing that any investment you make is going to have a lifespan on it, right? And the real question is, what's the lifespan of the things that I'm showing you? And I'm trying to show you ones that are longer. P5.js, I don't know, right? That's the most hokey of the ones that I've shown you. Maybe D3+, again, I don't know what the lifespan is because the user environment isn't huge, but I'm saying that, you know, it's in-house, so if you want to make something, and it's not hard to transfer that to something else. P5.js, I haven't seen a better environment for doing this multimedia-rich work on the web that was sort of gave you the nice primitives, right? I've seen other environments that haven't given you primitives that are as nice to work with. So how do you make decisions about this stuff? Based on what you're good at and what the capabilities are. Just like start working with one of them and then see if it feels right. So it's not worth jumping into open frameworks unless you really know that you want to be doing open frameworks, right? If you know that you need fast stuff. I would much more start with processing, especially with processing 3, which came out recently, which is a much better, richer environment, better debugging skills, things like that. Okay.